All right, this is warm-up number 4 in geometry. So we're going to start by sketching a triangle. I've got this grid here. It printed out really lightly for me, so I'm going to put little ticks at those teeny little numbers just to make this a little clearer. Okay, and going to start by just plotting these points, so hopefully you know how to do that, I think. So -3, 1, the point A, that means from the center, I'm going to go 3 left, 1 up. So the first number is left, right. Second number is up or down. So negative is going to be left, left 3, up 1. That's going to be right there. There's point A. I'm going to just put the coordinates in too, so I have them there for reference for the following problems. B is 4, 1. That means 4 to the right, 1 up. That puts me right there. And C is 1, 5, so 1 right, 5 up. Okay, and then I'm going to draw the triangle. And, you know, if you don't have a ruler, that's okay. I don't have one either. We can just freehand it. It doesn't have to be beautiful, just so we get an idea of what it looks like. Okay, so there's our triangle. Okay, find the area of this triangle. So what I want to do is find a base height pair. You don't want to just use any two sides. They have to be perpendicular to each other, so they have to form a right angle. So these two won't work. Those two won't work together. These two kind of looks like it might be a right angle, but I don't have a way of telling if that's a right angle or not. So what I want to do is use the bottom of this triangle. Okay. Because it's a horizontal line. It's a flat line, okay? And I'm going to find the length of this. Now, you could use the distance formula with these two sets of pairs, but since it's just a horizontal line, you can just count the number of spaces. So I can just think like this. I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 7 spaces, okay? So yeah, you go ahead and use distance formula if you like, but if you have a horizontal or vertical line, I would just count the spaces much quicker, okay? And then if I'm looking for, if this is going to be my base, the height that's going to go with that is going to be a line that's perpendicular to it, but it's going to connect to the opposite corner. So it's going to look like this. This is going to be the height that goes with that base, okay? And since this is a vertical line, again, I can just count the spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 4. And now I have the info I need to find the area. Okay, so the area formula for a triangle is 1/2 base times height. Now I've got a base height pair. Base is 7. Height is 4. Okay, so let's see. 7 times 4 is 28. So half of 28. And that's the same as dividing 28 by 2. So this is going to be 14. I don't know what the units are. I don't know if this is centimeters or miles or whatever. But I do know since it's area, it's square units. So I do want to put that in my final answer there. Okay. So there's the area. The area on this is actually easier than the perimeter. So the perimeter is the length of all 3 sides. The perimeter is like the distance around the outside. So if you took a walk around the outside of the triangle, how long would your walk be? Till you got back to where you started. So I can already see the bottom 7. That's great. So I've got this side, but I need the length of the other 2 sides. And yeah, I can count when I've got horizontal and vertical lines, but when it's tilted, I can't do that because I'm not just going along one of the axes, okay? So on my other 2 sides, I'm actually going to have to use the distance formula, okay? So for this side, this is going to be side AC, okay? So I'm going to draw an arrow down here just to keep track of what I'm doing. So AC, let's find the length of this. Distance formula. So here, maybe I'll write the distance formula here. x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Okay, there's my distance formula. Okay, so let's start plugging those pieces in. My x's, I'll use 1 and -3. So I'm going to do 1 minus -3. Okay, and then I'll square that. And for my y's, 5 minus 1. Or if you subtract in the opposite direction, so if you did, 1 minus 5 for the y's, that'll work too. Okay, all right, and then I'll start simplifying this. Okay, I'm going to work to the right here just because I didn't leave myself too much space on this page. So I'll start 1 minus negative 3. That's the same as 1 plus 3, right? When you have a double negative. So this is 4 squared plus 4 squared. Okay, I do the exponents in both of those. 4 squared is 16. So you get 16 down there twice. Okay, and that's going to be the square root of 32, which doesn't come out even, but I'm going to put it into a calculator to get a decimal approximation. Okay, so the square root of 32 is about 5, I'll call that 5.7 if I'm going to the nearest tenth. Okay. Okay, so just to keep track of what I was doing there, I just found this side is about 5.7. Okay, so I've got 2 of the 3 sides. Well, now I need to find this last side, so I'll call that last side BC. Here, maybe I'll do this in a different color just to keep it separate. Okay, I'm not going to write out the distance formula. It's right here, but I'm plugging in my 2 x's. I'll do 4 minus 1 for my x's. Square that. For my y's, 1 minus 5. And square that. Okay. Here, maybe I'll do this too, just to keep it separate. Okay, so 4 minus 1 is 3. 1 minus 5 is negative 4. Okay. And then, hey, 3 squared is 9. Negative 4 times negative 4 is positive 16, not negative 16. Negative times a negative is positive. Okay. That gives me root 25, which comes out to exactly 5. Okay. So that was this last side over here. And now I'm ready to find the perimeter, right? So, hey, yeah, I'll use this space down here. Again, yeah, sorry for the poor planning on the space I needed. But this is approximately equal, just because the 5.7 is rounded, right? It's not exactly equal to this, but it's about equal to 5.7 plus 5 plus 7, okay? So that's going to be, let's see, 10.7 plus 7. It's going to be 17.7 when you add it all together. Okay? And that's not square units, it's just units. Because you could measure this with a ruler, right? You could like cut this triangle up, and you could measure the 3 sides of the ruler and add them together. Area is different because you're measuring in 2 directions at once, so that's why you have square units. But this is just single units, okay, or first degree units. Okay. All right, and then problem from a couple of sections ago. Here we've got a midpoint, so I'm going to use the midpoint formula here. The midpoint is going to equal the average of the x's. So if I'm averaging these 2 x's, I would add them together and divide by 2. And then the average of the 2 y's. You'd add your 2 y's together and divide by 2 to find the average of those y's. So let's start plugging stuff in, okay? So this is the midpoint, right? So I know the coordinates there, so 10, 7 is going to go on the left here. Okay? This can be x1 and y1. x2 and y2, I don't know yet. They're over here. And that's what I'm looking for, right? Okay, so x1 is, if I average these 2 x's, I've got 4 plus x sub 2. So I can plug in the x sub 1, but I can't plug in the x sub 2 because I don't know it yet. Okay, and then 5 plus y sub 2 for my y's divided by 2 to average those. Okay? Now I'm going to write 2 different equations out of this. So 10 should be equivalent to that first fraction. So 10 is going to equal 4 plus x sub 2 over 2. And then 7 is going to be equal to the second fraction. 7 is going to equal 5 plus y sub 2 over 2. Okay? Both of these equations, I want to solve for the variable. I want to solve for x sub 2 here, so I'd like to get rid of the fraction. So the opposite of dividing by 2 is multiplying by 2, so I can clear that fraction just like that. And that's fine to do as long as you do the same thing to the other side. I'm really just doubling the whole equation, and that's going to clear that fraction. Okay? So 2 times 10 is 20. Okay, now we just have to subtract 4 to get the x by itself. There's my x sub 2. Okay, Going to double the equation to clear the fraction again. And then just subtract y. Or subtract 5, sorry. And 9 is my y sub 2. Okay? So that, hey, there's my xy pair, right? So my x sub 2 should be 16. My y sub 2 should be 9. And that's the second endpoint, okay? Let's think about this. So say you did this without the midpoint formula. You could just say, okay, going from 4 to 10 for my x's, that's a gap of 6, right? You're adding 6 to get from 4 to 10. So add another 6. So 10 plus 6 would be 16, okay? With the y's, 5. And then to get to 7, I'd have to add 2. So let's add another 2 to 7. 9. Boom. Same thing. Okay, so that works too. All right. That's it for today.